I'm Miranda, 28 years old. The opulence surrounding me in the grand foyer of my $45 million Palm Beach villa feels completely surreal. Just 24 hours ago, my life was the complete opposite. I was homeless, sobbing in my car after my father screamed, "Get out!" and threw all my belongings onto the front lawn. How could my life take such a drastic turn? I grew up in a simple townhouse, part of a small-town community in Ohio. My father, Henry, was a no-nonsense factory worker. He believed in frugality, hard work, and following a well-trodden path. His world was defined by clocking in at the factory, paying bills on time, and securing a stable future. My mother, Lily, on the other hand, was a free-spirited artist. She painted landscapes in her spare time and was always encouraging my own creative pursuits. When I was 16, she passed away from a sudden illness. After that, I saw something in my father harden. He became more strict, more focused on fitting me into his idea of a successful life. My older brother, Ethan, took after my father. He studied business at a local university and later got a job at a big company in the city. He was my father's pride and joy, always visiting on holidays and sending money home. I, however, was drawn to the world of art. I loved sketching, visiting art galleries, and learning about art history. After high school, I received a partial scholarship to study art history at a nearby college. My father tolerated this only because I had a boyfriend, Tom, who was studying engineering. Dad hoped Tom's practicality would rub off on me. After graduation, Tom moved to another state for a job, and our relationship ended. I landed a job at a small art studio in town. The pay was meager, but I loved every moment of it. I helped curate small exhibitions and worked on art restoration projects. My father, however, couldn't understand why I'd choose such a low-paying job when I could have pursued something more practical. To save money, I moved back home. Every day over dinner, I'd face my father's disappointed looks. His constant question was, "When are you going to get a real job?" Then 6 months ago, a woman named Vivien entered our lives. Dad met her at a community event. She was 48, a financial advisor who had recently moved to our town. Within weeks, she was staying over, and she had moved in completely within 2 months. From the start, something about Vivien felt off. She was overly sweet to my father but cold and dismissive toward me. She would rearrange my room, saying it was for better organization, and make snide remarks about my art-related purchases. One day, I received news that I'd inherited a small sum of money from a distant relative. Vivien found out and immediately suggested that, as an adult living at home, I should start contributing more to household expenses. My father, under her influence, agreed. Reluctantly, I started giving them a portion of my meager income. Then I noticed that some of my mother's precious paintings were missing. When I asked Vivien about it, she claimed my father had given them to her, saying my mother would have wanted her to have them. I knew it was a lie, but when I confronted my father, he was confused, just repeating Vivien's words. I called Ethan, desperate for support, but he told me I was being paranoid and that Dad was happy for the first time in years. One fateful day at work, I was helping with some financial paperwork and noticed a large transfer from my father's account to Vivien's. Investigating further, I found out that she had been systematically draining my father's savings. When I confronted her, she tried to cover it up, saying it was for their future plans. She even deleted the evidence I had collected on my phone. That evening when my father came home, Vivien had a fake bruise on her face and accused me of hitting her. My father, without a second thought, believed her. He roared at me to get out of the house, calling me ungrateful and accusing me of causing trouble. Heartbroken, I packed my things in the rain as my father threw more of my belongings onto the lawn. Betrayed and homeless, I drove away and spent the night in my car, feeling utterly lost. The next morning, a friend from the art studio let me stay at her place. While unpacking, I found an unopened letter from a law firm in Florida. When I opened it, I was shocked to learn that I was the sole beneficiary of a large estate left by my great-uncle, Arthur. He was an eccentric art collector who had made a fortune in real estate and art investments. He had been keeping tabs on me, impressed by my dedication to art. 24 hours later, I found myself standing in front of this magnificent villa in Palm Beach. The housekeeper, Rosa, welcomed me with a warm smile and showed me around. The villa was filled with priceless art pieces, and a special suite had been prepared just for me. It was as if my great-uncle had been waiting for me. As I settled into my new life, I decided to establish an art foundation in honor of my great-uncle and my mother. The foundation would support young artists and provide art education to underprivileged children. However, the past soon caught up with me. Ethan found out about my inheritance through an article in an art magazine and contacted me. Then my father and Vivien showed up at my villa. When they arrived, Vivien was eyeing the art pieces greedily, and my father looked thinner and more tired. They said they were worried about me, but I knew the real reason. Vivien suggested that, given my father's financial experience and her expertise, they could help me manage my wealth. I showed them the security footage of Vivien stealing my mother's paintings and the bank statements proving she had been draining my father's accounts. The truth was out, and Vivien's mask slipped. She lashed out at me, but I was no longer the vulnerable girl she once knew. My father was heartbroken to learn the truth. He apologized, saying he had been lonely and had made a terrible mistake. I told him I needed time to heal. I was starting to build a new life. A life where I could follow my passion and make a difference. Although the journey had been painful, I was grateful for the unexpected blessing that led me to this new path.